1999 International 4700 T444E. We're going to show you how to remove and replace your oil pan, which is what we already have off. Now, we're using this gasket maker here. I'm not sure if this is the right kind, but that's what we're going to use. And I'm using a couple of blocks also to jack up the engine. Hundreds of work tools. That's the radiator fluid that we drained. In order to get the oil pan off, we had to take this airline loose from here. Take that off because right up in here, let's see, right here, there's a bolt. There's a couple of bolts that you have to take loose in order to get the cross member off. Also on the other side, right up in here by the alternator, that's the alternator. Right up in here, there's about, see this hole right here? There's a hole right there. There's some more bolts right there that holds your cross member on. You have to drop that cross member in order to get your oil pan off. Unbolt all of the screws, drop the cross member, and your oil pan should wiggle out. Okay, I gotta get another blanket because it's raining out here. So, we've been working on this truck for a long time. I've looked all over YouTube and couldn't find videos on working on this specific truck. So, y'all bear with me as I try to explain how to fix on this truck. I'm gonna climb back here real quick and grab some blankets so that I don't get all wet up from the rain. I'm not actually working on the truck. I have a mechanic out here, but same deal. We've been working on it together. All right. I'm gonna crawl up under this truck. Alright, so your cross member goes right here. You have one here, there's another one that goes right here in front of your radiator hose. We took that off, which was holding the oil pan right here. You have bolts all around here.
Are you recording?
Yeah. Trying to show everybody how to get this oil pan off.
A little bit of advice to all the young mechanics out there. Sure you use the right kind of gasket.
Yeah, make sure
you're doing this shit in the rain.
So what kind of gasket do you use? I already got it on film. It's the black gasket, right?
Yeah.
Because the gray one was too watery. It didn't seal properly. And once we put everything back together, it was still leaking oil. Yeah. Another thing is what we did wrong before. This is our second time taking the oil pan off in what, 2 days?
2 days.
Once you put the gasket on there, it has to dry for an hour. Yeah. Don't rub it on. Don't rub it on the oil pan. Instead, make you a toothpaste line on the oil pan and then put your oil pan on here. Don't tighten it down, but put the bolts in there and let it dry up a little bit for probably about 30 minutes. Then tighten your bolts down and let it dry for another 30 minutes before you crank the truck. Make sure it's completely dry. Put as much gasket as needed. Go overkill on it. Put a whole bunch of that shit. You don't want any leaks because you're going to have to rip this whole thing back apart. Also, once you put the oil pan back on and you bolt it down, don't put the cross member back on until you verify that there's no more leaks. Because once you, it's hell putting this cross member back on. Once you put it on, you have to get a hammer and bang it back in up there and get it back on, line it up with the bolts. Same thing taking it off. We had to get us like a little small sludge hammer or a regular hammer and an extension bar and kind of like bang it from the top to get it off. Bang it on the driver's side, come to the passenger side and bang it some more and keep switching sides until eventually it popped off and fell. So same thing from the bottom, you're just banging it on both sides until you can get it back up there and put the bolts back on. Now there's bolts to this cross member. I know I'm going back and forth, but there's bolts to this cross member behind here. So these are the holes where the bolts go. Regular nuts. You could just get you like a monkey wrench or something and hold on to that and unscrew it. But there's also nuts behind this. So you're going to have to go back here with a wrench and hit the bolts from this side. Or there's, like I showed you previously, if you stand up, there's access from the top also. You just got to figure it out. What else do I need to tell you? We disassembled the starter. We took the battery cables apart first, so there's no power to the vehicle. We took the positive and negative off of the battery. We dropped the starter just to give us a little bit more clearance. You see, he's cleaning it up now. He already scraped off the old gasket with a razor blade. Now he's just cleaning it up. Be careful not to scratch or damage any of this coming from the crankshaft, or you're gonna be in some trouble. Now he has some jacks over here too. We had to use a couple of blocks because we don't have the right jacks. But what do you have the jacks for?
To hold the engine in place.
To hold the engine in place. So we have two jacks. We have one holding the transmission. And we have
the cross member holds the engine in place.
Right.
It's bolted to the. It's secured with the engine. The cross member secures it to the chassis of the truck.
Right.
So you don't have that, the engine will fall down.
Right. So you need to put a jack in place to hold the engine before you take the cross member off. Because once you remove that cross member, then the engine has no support and it will fall. So put your jack in place to hold the engine. This jack here is a 6-ton capacity. That jack there is a 3-ton capacity. So they're both holding the engine up in place. And we took this cross member off, which was supporting the engine. That's the reason we have the jacks. So once you get all of the bolts off of the oil pan, it doesn't drop down. You're gonna have to kind of wiggle it and get it off of here, because inside the oil pan there's another layer with a hole in it, which is what your oil suction goes into. So you're gonna have to tilt it sideways and play with it to wiggle it out, but it will come out. In part 2, I'll show you all putting this. I'll show you how we put the gasket on and actually put the oil pan back into place.